It's time for the Expert Advantage Real Estate Show with Blake Sloan. Blake Sloan, one of the top real estate agents, not only on the Grand Strand, but in the world. He's been featured in Forbes magazine, the Wall Street Journal, NBC, and many other publications. And now, the Expert Advantage Real Estate Show with Blake Sloan.
Welcome to Blake Sloan Radio Show. Lots of great stuff going on this week. I was out of the studio last weekend, just talking to Rick here. I was in Salt Lake City. We were filming a documentary about real estate. We'll talk about that later, and I have some of that to share hopefully next few weeks to a month or so. But back in the studio this week, lots of great stuff going on. And the biggest thing we'll talk about today is a deep dive into how the 2024 market ended up. Those numbers are finally in. We'll talk about two main things: how the 2024 market ended up both locally, also nationally, and we'll talk about what predictions are for 2025. My prediction for 2025, I've been doing this for, I think, 15 years on this station now that we're in 2025, and usually pretty on point, pretty close for the most part. We missed a little bit in COVID, obviously, when COVID happened, but it bounced back pretty well. So lots of great stuff. We have the brand new market numbers in from last month, but really talk about how did 2024 stack up, both condos, single families obviously did a lot better than condos did last year. I'll talk about what to look forward to. We'll talk about what the top 20 predictions are for 2025 based on just the largest reporting agencies. Lots of great stuff. We'll talk about both pricing, sales, what homeowners need to know. We have one main job on this station, really, this show, is to help you kind of keep educated on everything real estate so that you can make the best decisions possible in 2025. So lots of great stuff with that. Some amazing success stories. Our team's absolutely crushing it. We put 10 under contract yesterday, which is crazy for January. I think we're right at 20 something for the week already, which is amazing for the second week of January, or third week of January, which is awesome stuff. So lots of people who have been kind of just in that holiday mode from really Thanksgiving through Christmas and New Year's is finally back in the saddle. You're seeing lots of stuff happen right now, and some really good numbers for the real estate market overall. Even when rates are pretty high, they have gone back down a little bit this week, which is awesome. So lots of great stuff this week. If you ever want to come back and listen to any more of these shows, go check us out on YouTube. We stream it on YouTube. Just type in Blake Sloan Radio Show. You can follow me on Facebook at Blake Sloan. You can follow Sloan Realty Group. We stream them there. LinkedIn. You can also go to your favorite podcast portal, which is like Apple Music or also Spotify, and we stream those podcasts on there. But lots of great stuff. Save it, share it, and lots of great stuff today.
For any new listeners, just to give you an update on just who Blake is, it's an amazing story. Industry leaders have dubbed him the real estate whiz kid. Been featured in Forbes, Wall Street Journal, NBC, Realtor Magazine, and many other national publications. He has been personally endorsed by Sean Hannity and Glenn Beck. One of those by itself is an accomplishment, but all of them together is unprecedented. Last week, we learned a little about how you and your team work and how a good portion of your success has come from the trademark systems you have developed to help both buyers and sellers here in our market. Recap quickly for anyone new to the show what those are exactly and a quick overview of how they work, Blake.
Absolutely, Rick. And that's one thing that we talk about every week. It's my DNA behind the show, the DNA why we do the show. It's really my why, my calls, which just makes us kind of continue doing it. It's just I see the same mistakes over and over and over. It's one of the things we talked about in that documentary last week we were filming in Salt Lake City. Is just everyone makes the same mistake over and over. It doesn't matter how affluent they are. And actually, some of the more affluent people make the mistake more often for some reason, especially with high-end houses. They tend to make the wrong decisions and who they choose based on who lives in the neighborhood and who sold X amount of houses in the neighborhood. And then end up going with a really, a big fish in a very small pond. But long story short, the number one mistake people make is they think that all agents are the same. It could not be any further from the truth. Just like any doctor, any lawyer, right? If you charge the crime you didn't commit, the last thing I want is a part-time attorney who's my friend's friend, but they're pretty nice, right? I want the absolute most aggressive attorney who specializes in that type of law, who has lots of experience in the courtroom, who's the best of the best, right? And you should demand that same level of excellence for your largest assets, but for some reason, people don't do that. And same thing with you go to a restaurant, right? What comes down to having a good experience is the person that really you have in terms of your waiter or waitress. Same thing with a doctor, right? If I have a sickness I'm trying to figure out, I want the absolute best doctor who specializes in that type of medicine, who is fanatical about what they do, and it really has a lot of experience, because the more experience they have, the more better they can guide me and the better outcome I have. And it's the same thing when you're talking real estate, but people tend to not ask the right questions. They just ask the wrong questions, and they just say, how much do you charge? And that's about it. They feel like they have to ask a few questions to just wing it. And they tend to make bad decisions. Even one of the success stories we talk about today was a high-end house in Tidewater. They were building another property, and they almost couldn't continue building it because they went with an average agent who couldn't get the job done. It sat in the market for 6 months. And so these decisions have consequences that a lot of people don't realize until it's too late, until they're in a predicament where the property's not selling, or worst case, the property does sell. They leave $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 on the table. And so when I got in the business, I'm like, look, there's got to be a better way. And when I got in, it was me, a Coldwell Banker, teamed up with my mom. It was us and 200 other agents. They didn't care about us. We didn't care about them, right? And if anything, they didn't like us to do good. It was actually the opposite of how you'd think it would be. And so there was no alignment in the organization. And so what happened was I realized the business model was just very broken. It was one agent in most cases, or in our case, two, trying to juggle all the balls, right? Work with buyers, work with sellers, do all the administration, all the marketing, all the contract to close. And so in essence, what you have in most cases, most agent is one agent trying to juggle every single ball in the process. And that's like having the same person, McDonald's, the front register, the drive-through, and the French fries at the same time. It's very, very, very inefficient. And so what most agents do is they just end up promising the world to get the listing, saying anything and everything that they think will help to get the listing. Number one, because they're desperate. And number two, they just put it to MLS. And three, they pray that someone else brings a buyer. And meanwhile, they're down the street trying to get the next listing because they're trying to survive. You break down the data. The average agent in our marketplace sells less than 4 homes per year. That's 1 per quarter, right? So I wouldn't feel comfortable using an attorney who's only done 4 cases a year if some type of defense, or that type of thing there. So the reality is you want to make sure you keep that in mind. We talk about this every show because it's by far the most important thing that you can really realize. And so when I got in, I was like, man, there's got to be a better way. And I developed this thing called the Guaranteed Sold System, the only proven system that sell homes twice as fast and for 20% more money than traditional methods. And it works very, very, very well. I designed it. We license other agents, other parts of the country. It's exclusive to us, and it's phenomenal. It's backed up by 2 main things: a large team of people, a team of what we call specialists, where each person specializes in that part of the transaction, what they do. We have inside sales, we have outside sales, we have listing coordinator, closing coordinator, we have listing specialists, we have an in-house photographer, videographer, in-house graphic design, all the things that are needed to make sure I can control those variables to absolutely crush it through the process and have a very, very high standard, versus where you have most agents operate as generalists and they're just generally just doing everything. And so when you're trying to do everything, you're not mastering anything. And so that's the problem with the old school model. And we flip that business model upside down and change the industry in a way. And for buyers out there, guess what? Very, very difficult based on low inventory, the different changes in the marketplace. And so most cases, buyers, same exact situation. So we designed a system there for buyers called the Unfair Advantage Home Buying System. Gives priority access to foreclosure, distress sales, desperate sellers, the absolute best negotiation and purchase price, as well as home inspection negotiation to get you that close table successfully. And both those are designed to do one thing only. And that thing is give you a competitive advantage in the marketplace when you're buying or selling. So if you want to know more, reach out to us. You owe it to yourself to at least take a look at it, right? At least peek under the hood. And anytime anyone does, it absolutely blows their mind. So reach out, call us 843-808-SOLD or BlakeSloan.com. Anytime. We'll take a quick break, right back in a second.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. The real estate market is constantly changing. Now, here to give us more insight into this is my friend Blake Sloan of Sloan Realty Group. Now, I know certain programs make it a lot easier for the seller. Which ones do you offer?
Hey, Sean. In addition to our traditional program that sells your home for top dollar, we have an instant offer, a multi-offer, and a guaranteed offer program. I represent a large investment fund with millions of dollars who are looking to buy homes in the Grand Strand right now.
And what kind of return can you expect from them?
Here's what I'll say. Every seller's needs are different. Some need maximum convenience, and we deliver that every single time. Some need the most amount of money, and we have a program for that as well. We have a trademark program that gets sellers up to 5 to 10% more money than traditional industry methods.
All right, great insight, and thank you for this update. Call Blake Sloan today at 808-SOLD. That's 808-SOLD. Or online at BlakeSloan.com. That's BlakeSloan.com. And consider your home sold.
Hi, I'm Barbara Corbett. I'm excited to connect with Blake Sloan, the only real estate agent in Myrtle Beach that I recommend. You offer several options to home sales, which really takes away the stress.
That's right. For sellers in a time crunch, we can agree to sell it by a certain date, take after your home, or even rent it.
That's great. And if the seller has a bit more time,
We use our proven marketing plan to sell it for the highest price.
work with my friend Blake Sloan and get your home sold on your terms.
Welcome back to the Blake Sloan radio show. Lots of great stuff we'll talk about. Basically, just look at two main things. We'll talk about the market update. And here's the thing. We've seen a huge bounce back in terms of properties under contract. We talk about this on the show all the time. We have two types of numbers. We have the rear windshield numbers, the front windshield numbers and the rear view mirror numbers. The windshield numbers, like, hey, what's happening in front of us? Like, what's happening right now? What's going pending? So I can kind of keep as a real-time pulse to make better decisions, right? If I look at what closed, which is a rear view mirror, right? What's behind us, that's what closed last month. That's what pretty much most realtors use if they use any data. It just looks at, hey, what happened last month? The only problem, if you only use that data alone, that data is typically 30 to 60 days behind, in some cases longer. And so you want to use a combination of both. And so, like, for example, look just like back in December, it did great for closed properties. But look at what have been pending. We see a huge jump just in the last 2 weeks. It's significant overall. So, for example, we saw a 52% jump in pending deals just in the last 2 weeks. Obviously, I was out of town last weekend. We didn't do a show. But if you go back to the previous show 2 weeks ago, 303 properties went under contract for $107 million. This week, today, going backwards the last 7 days, 463 properties, which is a 52% increase in a 2 week period, which is awesome. 185 million. So 80 million more went under contract than it did just 2 weeks ago. And we're seeing the same thing. Like I said, our team put 10 under contract yesterday, 20 plus in the last 7 days, which has been unbelievable to see those types of numbers in January while rates are still in the sevens, which is awesome. And so some of those numbers, looking back, one property at $7.5 million, which is a huge one. That was actually a marina. It was a little bit out of out Horry County, but it's still part of our MLS. One property at $4.5 million under contract, 7 properties over $2 million under contract last 7 days. Lots of big money coming to Myrtle Beach right now. 13 properties over $1 million, 82 properties over $500,000. So I was super excited to see that bounce back, especially for January, which sometimes can be, a little bit slow. And we saw a great January last year because rates dropped down into the low sixes. This year that did not happen, but lots of people who kind of sat in the sidelines all the way through the holidays. That's always our biggest objection for buyers when it comes down to right before Thanksgiving till New Year's Day and the day after. Then everyone feels really guilty for not doing anything for that entire time, and they want to jump back in the saddle. That's exactly what we've been seeing. So we've been pushing hard with our team for the last really month and a half during the holidays to make sure we can help serve those clients the first of the year, and it's working out very, very good. So what's that mean as a seller? Well, it means, hey, lots of buyers jump back in. We're seeing numbers that are really like May, June, July, close to 200 million. If you listen to the show for a while, we always talk about anytime the 7 day period of sales is close to 200 million, the market is rock and rolling. And right now in January, the last 7 days, 185 million under contract, which is huge. So lots of great stuff there. But to see a 52% increase in a 2 week period in properties under contract is just awesome. So really quick recap for last month. The closed numbers, December ended up very, very well in closed numbers. December sales for resale homes was up 27.2%, which is awesome. Sales price last month of 5.4% at $510,000. So it went back over the $500,000 mark, which is good. Because you go back to October, it was $462,000. Now it's up to $510,000. So you're talking really a $50,000 jump in 2 months there, just an average sale price, which is great news for home sellers out there. Median price up 2.7%. Last month overall. Inventory went down significantly, 4.1 months of inventory right now. It was at 4.6 months. So you saw that huge run there and really in November, December. If you go back to November, it's 4.6 months. It really capped out the highest it's been in a very, very long time. And it dropped all the way down to 4.1 months. Some of that has to do with people taking their property off the market during the holidays. A lot of sellers do that, and then they'll relist the first of the year. So we'll look to see what happens data-wise this year. But showings per listing, 2.6 showings per listing. So the average, this is why you don't listen to your friend. If you take anything from today's show, your friend might be really nice. Your friend might do okay. But you need someone who can have money that can put behind it to get the property sold. Because if you look at the data in December, the average listing for the entire life of the listing averaged 2.6 showings per listing, down 13%. So that means if you do a 6-month listing, the average showing per listing, 2.6, right? You look at showings to pending, how many showings it take to get a contract, it takes on average 13.6. So you can see the massive problem there that you need to make that gap from 2.6 to 13.6, talking a 5x increase that you need, really a 6x increase that you need to get the showings to get a contract. And so most listings need 6 times the showings that they're actually getting before they get a contract, and that's why your property hasn't sold. That's why the property's not selling. And so that's a key part there, where you need somebody to put eyeballs behind it, where they can see it, they can look at it. Because the one thing I talk about all the time with our clients is that, look, I can't make somebody buy your house, right? I can go in and show it and, try to make the cabinet seem as cool as possible. But guess what? They know in 2 seconds if they like it or not. I've been doing this for 20 years. You can tell in 2 seconds when they walk in that house if they like it or not. And so what I can do, and I realize, like, man, I can show the house, do great. Obviously, we do that. We have all the information, but people know, and they don't like to be pressured in that. But the one thing I learned, like, how do I change the outcome for our clients? When I learned the way to change the outcome is to drive advertising and marketing to get more traffic for it, where your first showing actually happens online. And so the more showings I can make happen online, the more likely somebody clicks that button to look at the property, which means an increased demand, which means we're able to sell your property faster and for more money. And that's exactly what our system does there with that. So let's look at 2024 recap as a whole. We'll talk about just condos together, because condos took a beating. But if I go back to look at, hey, what's the last 12 months? How did 2024 end up as a whole? Resale homes actually up 4.8%, which is good news. It really bounced back towards the end of the year, which is great. So 5,323 closed sales last year, which is great. Median price up 3.1% in the last 12 months, which is good. Obviously, we did not see a decline, which is great news there, especially in the face of very high interest rates. The overall median price ended up at $384,000 for the year. Average sale price up 3.7% at $489,935, which is pretty much in line with most of the places across the country. They saw roughly about a 4% increase in price across the country. Some areas saw 7%, but really the average for most reports I'm seeing was a 4% increase year over year. We're right along there with that. New construction is a little different. That data is really hard to get. We'll talk about that kind of later on another show. Inventory ended up 41% last year. See, the amount of homes sold ended up 41% overall with that. The one thing to kind of keep looking at too, days on market. We have really kind of had over 100 days on market for the most time that people saw. If you look at average days on market, 103 days on market for ending up in December there for last year, which is longer than most people think, right? A lot of sellers are expecting it to be sold in just a matter of a couple of days, but that's something you want to watch out for overall with that. Average list to sale price ratio that people got, 97%. So on average, if a house is listed at 100,000, it sold for 97,000. So that's just something how it ended up. Now into condos market took kind of a beating for sure. Sales on 15.1% last year overall. If you look at December, it actually held off pretty decent at 1.4%. Prices, that's what everybody cares about. Prices still in the positive, which is still kind of shocking to me to see how hard condo market took a hit in terms of lots of inventory in the market, lots of buildings having assessments, lots of buildings having increased insurances, increased HOA amounts. And so to end up price up 3.4% for average sale price at $263,000 is great news for condo owners. And that's if I'm a condo owner, I want to sell earlier rather than later, because I don't foresee that challenge going away. It's happening a lot in Florida right now. They're having tremendous issues with condos. They're all calling for a significant decline in prices there. We have not seen that yet here, but we've seen a lot more inventory, which is supply and demand. More supply, same demand. You're going to see prices soften in the long term, at least in my opinion there. Inventory ended up at 6.3 months for the year, which is a buyer's market for condos. That's something to keep looking at overall with that. And the list sale price ratio for condos, right, 96.2%, which is not too bad if you look at that. And the one thing you kind of look at too is how many days on market were condos the most part, 118 days on market that most of them saw it. So what does that mean to seller? Well, two things. Number one, you want to make sure you have a good agent. Of that 118 days, really only about 50% of listings that got listed actually sold. So most of those either had to extend their listing or expire and relist with somebody else. And so the ones that did sell, you're looking at about 118 days on market. Like I mentioned, for resale homes, you're like 103 days on market. And so you want to have an agent who's good, who can speed that up. That way it doesn't take 3 to 4 months on average to sell if it does sell. And you want somebody who can obviously make sure you get the job done. So keep that in mind overall. Looking back at kind of predictions of what everyone's thinking nationally, some very interesting stuff, right? So look at, like I said, national numbers. There's too many reports I was reading. Most of the United States was up 4% last year in 2024 in terms of prices. And so predictions for 2025, 18 of the top 20 reporting agencies are predicting a price increase in 2025 from 3% to 5.5%. And that's something that we kind of looked at overall. And this is kind of from one of the a Bankrate chief financial officer talking about most areas will still lean towards a seller's market due to limited inventory. However, the markets that have seen a surge in inventory will definitely be more of a buyer's market and will be susceptible to price declines. And you're seeing that in some of the areas, Tampa, Florida, for example, lots of ones that you see there. But the top 20 major predictions came from large companies like Wells Fargo, Goldman Sachs, Redfin, Realtor.com, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Housing Wire, all those big stuff. And all of them predict a bullish market, anywhere from, like I said, 5.5% overall. And that's kind of the AEHI Housing Center. Second was Wells Fargo saying a 4.9% increase, Goldman Sachs saying a 4.4%. There were two that said a potential decline in prices, Moody's with a negative 0.4% and Morgan Stanley negative 2%. And so pretty much looking at a big, significant increase, which is really good based on high interest rates. You're looking at typically everyone's saying a 3 to 5.5% increase there overall based on the market, based on where it's at. Myrtle Beach is insulated pretty well. As you know, we're still seeing a lot of people move in town from other areas, which is great. Everyone's predicting inventory across the country is going to increase from 10 to 14%. What does that mean? Well, it means if I'm a home seller, I'm going to see more competition overall. And so that's one of the things that I want to think about, where if there's 10 to 14% more homes for sale in my neighborhood, what does that mean for pricing? It means if I don't have a 10 to 14% increase in buyers, you're going to see pricing go down a little bit. And so interest rates is the main driver of that. Everyone's looking for interest rates to remain flat Q1 and finally see some easing in Q2. Last week, we saw rates jump up significantly. That came back to some jobs report that came out. Again, I don't know if anyone believes the jobs report that's been coming out of the current administration before the switch over here starting next week, but it did affect the bond market and rates jumped back up significantly. They're also, if you look at prices, mentioned obviously talking about anywhere from 3 to 5.5%. Here's the one thing for look 2024. Remember, too, number of home sales, the lowest since 1995. There's only 3.8 million home sales, which is the lowest amount of homes sold since 1995. And the good news is prices still held strong. We saw a 4% increase on average. We were right at 4% here in Myrtle Beach. And inventory for homes for sales back to pre-COVID levels, which you can just soften a little bit. Remember, it's so tight after COVID. You see 10, 15 offers on a property, some 50, 60,000 over asking price. You're not seeing that anymore, which is good. It's a healthy middle of the road market. And that's something to keep overall. The main thing is going to be really interest rates, what everybody's kind of thinking overall. Most people, like I said, have mentioned it's going to remain flat for Q1. You see it ease a little bit in Q2. The average, really kind of what everyone's seeing for 2025 based on really the top 10 reporting agencies, which are the CoreLogic, Wells Fargo, Mortgage Bankers Association, Fannie Mae, Moody's, Realtor.com. They're seeing about 6.36 they're seeing it get to, which is the forecast for 2025. That will be super helpful. There's so many buyers on the sideline looking to make a jump, and we'll talk about that as well. So right now, interest rate 7.07%. They came down last week, which was really good. It did bump up. A 15-year fix, 6.48%. A 30-year jumbo loan, 7.35%. A 30-year FHA loan, 6.48%. And a 30-year VA loan, 6.5%. If you're thinking about buying, get in, right? Lots of opportunity. Prices continue to climb. 4 to 7%. It's going to mean you're going to pay more the longer you wait. And so if you want to know more, reach out, call us 843-808-SOLO. A quick break, right back in a second with our hot bars alert.
WRNN listeners, Clay Travis here. As investors in real estate, Buck and I both know exactly what to look for to find the agent with the best tools and marketing to get the highest sales price possible for a home.
Totally true, Clay. And here in Myrtle Beach, that agent is our friend Blake Sloan of Sloan Realty Group. If you need to sell a home and buy a new one, ask Blake about his guarantee.
Get this, Blake guarantees to sell your home at a price and deadline you agree to, or he'll buy it himself. And since you know when your current home will sell by and for how much, you can buy your next home without worrying about getting stuck with two mortgages.
There's simply no other agent in the market who has a guarantee that will line up against what Blake Sloan can offer you. So when you're looking to sell and buy, he is your guy. Read nearly 750 five-star reviews by Googling Sloan Realty Group. Give Blake a call today and start packing that Sloan Realty Group.
And tune in to Blake's shows Saturdays at 9 a.m. and Sundays at 11:30 a.m.
Hey, Myrtle Beach, it's Gary LaVox, lead singer of Rascal Flatts. When I'm Moving On won the award for ACM Song of the
About
Year,
3
it's about
minutes.
the core
Okay.
folks who understand the challenges that come with life's big changes. For many, that happens when it comes time to sell their home. If you're moving on,
Wait, 4, right?
real estate agent who
Ah,
will
It's about 4 minutes, right? Or no?
Well, I'm at 25:10.
Okay, I'm close.
30 seconds left here, so it'll be right at
That's why at
26.
Myrtle
Okay.
Beach, I can tell
About
you that
3.5.
Sloan
Okay.
Realty Group markets your home
29:30, right?
Huh?
29:30?
Now listen, Blake
Okay.
is so confident in his ability to sell your home quickly and for more money that he guarantees to sell it or he'll buy it himself. If you're moving on, trust Blake to provide your family a stress-free home sale experience. Find Blake Sloan online at blakesloan.com or you can call him at 843-808-SOLD. Start packing.
Welcome back to Blake Sloan Real Estate Show. Hot buyers alert. My team and I working a ridiculous amount of home buyers. Look at my property here in the Myrtle Beach, Grand Strand area. Anywhere from $250,000 to $4.4 million. If you're thinking about selling, give us a call, 843-808-SOLD. Again, it's 843-808-SOLD. One thing we do every week is put our money where our mouth is. And so we mentioned before, we outspend the average agent 100 to 1 from a marketing standpoint due to our unique business model, which allows us to really create buyers from all across the world. And like right now on the website, I got Deb from San Jose, California. She's probably trying to get out of California for sure. Kevin, he's from Westfield, New York. I got Gene from Dayton, Ohio. I got Norman from Charlotte, North Carolina. I got Linda from Dallas, Texas. I got Gail from Norfolk, Virginia. So all over, right? I got Sao Paulo, Brazil right now. Peter, I can't pronounce his last name. Peter's on the website right now. And so that's just something that we have a global reach. If you're thinking about selling, call us. We can sell properties faster because we have what we call buyers in waiting. Right now, active home buyers with username, password, account, we cross over 79,018 active home buyers. Again, 79,018 active home buyers from all over the globe. And so if you're thinking about selling, come to the one that already has the buyers, not go to someone who puts a for sale sign, then hopes to get someone. That's how we speed up the home sale process. We make 16,000 phone calls a week on our team to match up buyers and sellers. And that's what makes us that much more different. So really quick, a couple awesome success stories. Miles and Vicky, they own a beautiful property in Tidewater Plantation in Myrtle Beach. They recently decided to build a brand new home also in Tidewater Plantation, but needed to sell their current property so they can move into the new one. They listed with an agent that was referred to them by somebody else. After 6 months, they had no activity whatsoever. They were super devastated. Thankfully, though, Miles is friends with a past client of ours at Sloan Realty Group. He recommended Miles to give us a call. We met with Miles and Vicky, share with him how we have hundreds of buyers that looking for property just like theirs, high-end property in that type of neighborhood. And basically, we had sold their friends in a matter of a couple of days. We came in. They decided, obviously, we're the best fit. We designed a custom plan, launched our global marketing blitz, professional photos, and then in just a couple of weeks, we had Miles and Vicky's property under contract. They can close their new construction that they were building without the stress after almost canceling it when they couldn't get it sold before, which is awesome. So big shout out to them. Also, Phyllis, she owned a home in Conway, decided it was time for her to get selling it closer to the beach. She always wanted to be directly on the ocean. It was time to make her dreams a reality. One of her biggest concerns, though, was the home was not in perfect condition, and she was worried she may not be able to get enough money out of the sale of the property to move directly on the ocean. She met a few investors, quickly realized they were only paying pennies on the dollar, and thankfully heard about us on the radio, decided to give us a call. We met with her, showed her how we had tons of buyers willing to buy homes in current as-is condition. We always get them to do so. They pay a fair price. Long story short, design a custom plan, launched our global marketing blitz, professional photos, virtual reality walkthrough, drove massive traffic within 2 weeks, had it under contract at a fantastic offer, and now she's able to put that same money on the property on the ocean. So if you want to be next success story, give us a call, 843-808-SOLD for sure. And I think we got, what 30 seconds left? Awesome. So one thing we'll look at here into 2025, right? Lots of stuff going. If you're thinking about selling, it's probably gonna be a little earlier than ever. There's a lot of people who are just really stored up demand. They've been sitting on the sidelines when rates have been high. Right now they come back down. Predictions are, like I said, we're getting 6.36. Reach out, call us 843-808-SOLD or blakesloan.com. We'll see you back here at the same time next week. That was a little rough, man. That one for me. Oh,
It was that trip.
I know.